So today we're going to do something a little bit different, and that is talk about some Rostermania, because whilst it started off pretty slow, it has heated up quite a lot, and we got some massive surprises rumored to happen yesterday, and so I'm just going to take the time to sort of discuss it and talk about all of the different things that could potentially happen. Now, all of this, or most of this, is still, rumor and speculation, and there is still time for things to change, so, don't see this as completely set in stone just yet, but some of the stories are pretty crazy. So let's dive in, and perhaps we'll start with the biggest news of all, which is this one here, that Sentinels might be doing a rebuild without Shazam and without TenZ as well, who is apparently both of their contracts are about to expire, and George Geddes mentioned this on his stream.
TenZ and Shazam? Okay, guys. I've mentioned this before. If you read my articles, okay, TenZ and Shazam both have expiring contracts, okay? So they will be out of contract with Sentinels. So what that means is that TenZ and Shazam can go look for other opportunities without a buyout, okay? And as far as I'm aware, the new people that Sentinels are bringing in, like, TenZ and Shazam are not their priorities.
Now, Sentinels rebuilding without Shazam, and particularly TenZ, would come as quite a shock. Obviously, both are pretty well-known players in the Valorant community. I mean, TenZ probably is the most well-known player in the Valorant community. And for particularly TenZ, I think this would be a massive, massive surprise. And all of a sudden, other teams out there, if Sentinels don't re-sign TenZ, would have all of a sudden a chance to sign kind of the biggest name and potentially give them a massive boost to their viewership and kind of clout as an organization. So that could be a very, very fascinating thing indeed. I mean, maybe even, organizations from across the world, not just in North America, might view this as a great chance to sign, a massive, massive name and really put them on the map with TenZ if they were willing to fork out that cash. Now, obviously, the last year wasn't great for Sentinels as a whole, and so there will be question marks for anyone associated with Sentinels about whether they can still perform at the very highest level. But particularly when we look at TenZ, obviously he does come with that massive clout as well, but he is still very young as well and has shown, obviously, his incredible skill. And I feel like a lot of teams will probably think that in the right circumstances, in the right situation, the TenZ still definitely has the talent to thrive. And so I'd be surprised if he didn't make a tier 1 org. Just for the clout alone, it seems like your viewership and fan base will increase massively if you just sign one player. But then we had massive, massive news coming out of Brazil as well. And that is that the current world champions, Loud, might be splitting up. Now, that would be absolutely insane, and apparently the rumors are that this has to do with, a salary dispute maybe between them and the org and, signing new contracts. Obviously, the Loud players probably do want, a salary bump, considering they are the world champions. It's fair enough for them to perhaps say, we should be the highest paid Valorant players in the world, and if an org isn't, willing to do that, then maybe they will have to split up, because that would be absolutely insane, and the ramifications of if Loud split up would be absolutely monumental, because of course there are 3 Brazilian orgs, but we're already, kind of somewhat deep into Rostermania. I would assume that most orgs have, been eyeing who they want to sign and are already in negotiations with some players of who they want to sign. So all of a sudden, if midway through this you just get 5 of, the best players in the world, all just being available all of a sudden, that is going to change everything massively, as all these orgs, I mean, even North American orgs, doesn't just have to be Brazilian orgs or South American orgs, it could even be worldwide orgs, because, I know in particular Sassy and Sadak, I think as well, do speak, decent English, and so, they could take offers from potentially anywhere they wanted to. That would be a massive, massive shift overall to have, again, just even more insane free agents. We've seen the split up of FPX, you've got the split up of Optic, and then to add on Loud to that as well, that would be insane. Now, they haven't officially, fully left yet or signed anywhere else, right? So it's not the end of the game for Loud. Loud could potentially come back with an offer and sign all of the Loud players, right? It still could end up being okay. But if it isn't, it's going to be absolutely heartbreaking. Because one thing, I know we were all probably excited for the next tournament in Sao Paulo, the 30-team massive tournament, and Loud were going to go and play in Brazil, being world champions in front of a Brazilian crowd. It was going to be insane. And if that doesn't happen and all the players go off in their different directions and we end up with, kind of a mishmash, it's going to just not quite feel the same. It's going to feel very, very weird, and we're going to be robbed of that, massive fan reaction to Loud, when they first entered that stage. I can only imagine it would be an absolutely insane thing to see. and we might be robbed of that opportunity. But it doesn't stop there, because one of those teams that obviously did have to split up in Optic, well, apparently 3 of them are going to stick together, because it seems like FNS, Victor, and Crashies are all going to be signed to NRG, and also Chet, their coach, is going to follow along. So it seems like NRG are going to become, the main part of Optic, and Ye obviously has gone to C9, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And that just leaves Marved as the only Optic player without a home for this time being. But it seems like NRG are going to build around the Optic core, and instantly NRG are going to be one of the favorites. And also, just by signing these players, will probably accrue some fan base as well, who will want to kind of follow the Optic legacy to NRG. But coming away from the Americas League in EMEA, we also had a little bit of news that could change things as well, and that is that Carmine Corp are potentially in on Scream and Nevera from Team Liquid. Now, there's also rumors going about that Redgar and Nats could go and sign for Team Liquid and kind of replace the brothers here from Belgium. But apparently, Scream and Nevera could go to Carmine and then form perhaps a French-speaking roster for that team. Again, that would be pretty insane and pretty seismic if this happens as well. But whilst a lot of this is still speculation and still up in the air and things can change, it does seem like we have 2 finalized rosters in NA so far as well. That being C9 with Leaf, Vanity, and Zeppa, those 3 already on the team, but then the addition of Ye and Zelsis, 2 incredibly talented players. I mean, obviously, whoever got Ye was getting a massive upgrade because, well, he's the best player in the world, so, that definitely will help. And I think C9, with this roster, will probably looking at, we need to be, in the top 3 teams in the world for a while. They'll be looking at winning things with this team, and anything less than that will probably be seen as a big failure overall. This is a team that very much can win tournaments, and I think that is the expectation, and really nothing less for C9 going forward, because whoever signs Ye, there's going to be expectation that you need to be at the very top of the game. And for 100 Thieves, they've kind of stuck mostly with their core with Stella, Bang, Asner, and Derek. But then, of course, the addition of Cryo, giving them some of that extra firepower and one of the best young talents in North America. They too will be looking to kind of maybe build on what they've already been doing, right? They kind of have this progression of kind of building up this young roster and kind of going together. And, they did make it to champs. And now, with Cryo, they'll perhaps be looking to take that next step and keep building and building and building until they are, also seen as one of the top teams in the world. But that was just the latest news coming out from Rostermania, and basically I'll be doing this, every so often, either when we get a day like we did yesterday, where there's just a ton of news coming out about, big names and what's going on, or when we get either, kind of more formalized, official, saying who the teams are and what those teams are going to look like. That is what I'll be doing these videos on every so often as we, go forward with Rostermania, I suppose. But I'd be very, very interested in what you guys have to say as well, because there is a lot to dive into here, right? We're talking about perhaps the biggest name in all of Valorant, TenZ, potentially not being on Sentinels, which would be absolutely huge. We're talking about, the most successful team recently, the Valorant champions, the literal world champions of the game, potentially splitting up, out of nowhere seemingly, right? Crazy things are happening. I mean, Scream as well, one of the biggest names in the NBA, might move teams as well. Just absolutely insane. I'd be very, very interested in what you guys have to say. So please leave a comment down below and give me all of your hottest takes.